What I really don't like is the way we intellectualize leadership.
Would you make a 25-year-old a head of something today?
There should not be any pettiness.
35th year of our relationship. And that's the primary thing. And what is the value this feedback is going to add? If you can't answer this question, don't give feedback. The moment conversation stops, the conflict starts.
Is leadership often equals loneliness?
We had to blend with each other's style.
लीडरशिप, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स, पीपल मैनेजमेंट के बारे में हमने सुना तो बहुत है और बहुत सी थ्योरी सुनी है. आज कुछ मिथ्स ब्रेक करते हैं और कुछ सच सुनते हैं. Hi, this is Yashika and you're with me on In It Together by Voice of Achievers, a podcast where we discuss leadership, people dynamics with founders, partners and professionals who may share diverse perspectives but converge together as one unit. Meet Yogesh and Pallavi Padgaonkar, partners in people leadership and in life. With over 4 decades of combined experience in HR, executive coaching and leadership development, they've shaped teams, transformed cultures and built legacies both in the workplace and at home. Yogesh, Chief People Officer at Persistent Systems, is a master certified coach with hours of coaching experience. Pallavi is a certified image and behavioral coach and has been the CEO of Global Talent Track. She brings her unique touch to executive presence, DEI, and leadership communication. Together, they are a rare blend of empathy, structure, and spontaneity. Welcome to the show.
Thank you
happy
so
to have
much.
Great to
Same
hear.
here. Wonderful.
You know, I want to start from the start, and I know, Yogesh and Pallavi, both of you, what excited me about your backgrounds is that, there's zoology in your case, and then you go on to do, an HR course at XLRI. In your case, once again, engineering background and this and that, and then suddenly you're like, Acha, I'm a people's person, I'll go the HR route.
So I'm a failed doctor. I wanted to be a doctor, which I couldn't.
But yeah, a lot of...
In my generation, nobody did BSc by design. You are either a failed doctor or a failed engineer. In my case, I was a failed doctor.
ऐसे भी उस, I think एक point तक आज शायद बात कुछ और है, but at some point in time, we had very boxed career
Absolutely,
choices.
absolutely.
And today I'm thankful that whatever the life has taken shape. So.
Right, exactly. But in doing so, what you all have done interestingly is very nicely popped in and out of entrepreneurial positions.
Yeah.
Okay. In today's times, I somehow feel we end up kind of cursing the generation for saying कि अरे तुम कभी ये कर रहे हो, कभी वो कर रहे हो, कभी. But you all have done it in a very thoughtful manner. I know in one of the conversations you mentioned that I wanted to take up certain things within the entrepreneurial space, and then Pallavi was the one who said that maybe step into the CEO's position once again, or the CHRO's position once again, and stuff like that, the corporate. What I want to know is when this juggle happens between the two, or this popping in and popping out, taught you?
First of all, for me, I don't think, in your introduction, you talked about we being logical. That's never been a strength. We have followed our heart through. So if you really ask me, I can reverse engineer and tell you what was the plan when I got into entrepreneurship and then got out or something like that. Honestly speaking, I just followed my heart everywhere. Like for example, when I was a CHRO at my earlier organization, I decided to take a plunge into sales. And I left my CHRO job to go do a P&L kind of a role.
I was surprised, yes.
At that point of time, I never had a thought I'll come back to HR again. So if I say that, no, I wanted to take some P&L stint to be a better HR person, I'll be lying through my teeth. So at that point of time, I felt that is what needs to be done. Similarly, when I was, a CHRO in one of the IT companies, I just felt that my coaching calling is very, very strong, and I needed to spend time with my kids because they were growing, and I had become a weekend father. So I just said, okay, this is the right time. So there have no been strategic reasons, and I can glorify it, I can intellectualize it, but just following that at that point of time, and that's what we both have done actually.
Right.
I mean, she also has taken her breaks or changes, switches whenever it was least expected, kind of stuff.
So I always wanted to be a, underwater zoology or scuba diving was my dream.
Wow.
That's the reason why I took up marine zoology. But later on, I always believe that failures, which I had umpteen, always helped me to get on to a different path completely. And while initially I would feel, oh my God, how would I do this? Later on, looking back, I felt, oh, it's good that it did not happen that time and XYZ happened. Because that gave me a lot of resilience to look at things and a confidence that, okay, anything in the world, I can still do it. So right from zoology to education to, EQ to doing theatre, everything under the sun. So when I actually got into the training and facilitation space, I could connect so easily to the audiences simply because I had done some part of it at some part of life.
This is an interesting point she makes. She says jack of all trades. Tell me, you both have held leadership positions, right? Does it make sense to be a jack of all trades today or a master of one or some?
It depends on what is your preference of a career. Okay. If I am a techie or if I am a scientist and I want to go deep into something, I better develop the depth and kind of a stuff. Both of us were more on the generic side, general. We were more interested in the human nature and the human. Basically, what has always appealed was people.
Right.
And then the spread sometimes is better. Because what happens is that you see number of scenarios, people, and you stop boxing them into what I really don't like is the way we intellectualize leadership. Actually, leadership is a very, very simple stuff. Mike Reed has perhaps intellectualized it.
What are you saying? I mean, come on.
No, I'll give you a data point. The world's largest organizations, some of the largest and best organizations, have been started and run by the people who are average academically or the college dropouts. If leadership was intellectually so challenging, this wouldn't have happened. So it's a very simple data point. Just think about it. So leadership is all about not boxing people. It's about understanding people the way they are and allowing them to be who they are.
Yes.
And then help them grow the way they are. And that's the leadership is all about. So diversity is great. From that perspective, a spread is great. The kind of people, so when we were running our company together, on one side there's a global organization which leads in health and wellness globally. On the other side, there's an alcohol beverages company, which is again a global giant, okay?
Nice.
And everything in between. Now, you see a variety of people. Then you see automobile industry, then you see technology, you see retail, and you just understand that everybody brings their different perspective. At a point of time, though everybody thinks my industry is unique, my company is unique, actually there are a lot of similarities you can see through if you go across. So in our kind of field, I just thought, I'm very happy to be a jack of all trades, and I'm definitely master of none actually. That I'm very, very proudly none.
But when you're talking about leadership, and this is for both of you, in today's workplace, we are seeing a very interesting and a unique blend of multiple generations.
Oh yes.
Working within the same scenario. And fortunately or unfortunately, the setting or the dynamics of the world have been different for each of those generations.
Correct.
Right? For example, there's been a certain generation of the millennials or even ones over and above that who've seen a certain discipline and a structure. Whereas, the generation now, they know so many things at a click of a button.
Yes.
So, what is one thing about leadership when you're talking about leadership across generations?
Correct.
Tell us, what's a hack that you would say or what's a tip that you would say कि यार अगर तुम्हें leader बनना है या अगर तुम्हें people manager बनना है तो ये skill तो तुम्हें मालूम होनी चाहिए, ये एक बात है जो तुम्हें मालूम होनी चाहिए.
So I do a lot of work in this area, getting all the generations together, towards, that's a challenge nowadays in all organizations.
Exactly.
Yes, but however, I feel, and a couple of things that I really believe in truly, and that's how it works out, is one of the things is respect. No matter which generation you belong to, each one comes from his or her own experience.
Right.
So how do I accord respect to the other person? And what do I learn from the other person? So from the senior generation to the junior generation, maybe I learn technology from the younger ones. Instead of saying आजकल के बच्चे हमको क्या सिखाएंगे, is a common term you hear.
I was just going to say कि देखिए रिस्पेक्ट जो है वो ऑटोमेटिकली हमारी भारतीय संस्कृति में ऐसा है दैट काफी एज
age hierarchy, and I'm not talking about age hierarchy at all. I am seeing
even class hierarchy or the structural hierarchy for that matter.
Yes. It's just about understanding what you can learn from each other. What do we bring to the table? And instead of nok joke, it's always better to align to the bigger picture. And the second thing that I truly believe is that people tend to work with people of their kind. So आप मेरे जैसे हो तो it's very easy to work with you. He is not like me. I may avoid him, or I may choose you on all that. It's important to understand कि हमारे मसाला box जो रहता है घर का kitchen box has a lot of spices in it. So it's the diversity that actually builds an organization, and the day we appreciate it and respect it, it's amazing to work in such a kind of organization.
Just building on to what I've said, openness, for me, the hack is very simple, openness. And every time you have a conflict, you look inside and you understand your own limitations or your own limiting thoughts. I'll tell you a very simple story. I was HR of an IT company, and we had hired a very bright young girl from one of the leading institutes. Every time I passed her cubicle, I saw her on the social media.
Right.
So I was worried about this girl, and one day I called her saying that, can I give you some feedback? So she said, I said, you're doing well, you're doing very good, brilliant, but I'm just worried that every time I pass your cubicle or something, I always see you on, browsing your phone or social media. I'm just worried that this might one day derail you from your, deadlines or goals or something like that. So she said, can I ask you something? I said, sure. Now I had opened the conversation. Now, once you open a conversation, you don't have a...
you can't go back.
You can't go back.
Yes.
Right? So I said, yeah, sure. She said, have I missed my deadlines ever? I said, no. But I'm just worried from what I've known. She said, okay, can I ask you a few questions? I said, sure. She said, what is your age? So I looked at her and I told her my age. And then she said, okay, you are just maybe, my father is just 2-3 years older than you. So that's like a stab to you, and somebody, your colleague tells you that you are actually my dad's generation kind of stuff. And I just did not know where this dialogue was going. So then she said, listen, you must have had a childhood where you must have spent summer vacations with the cousins in one place. You must have grown in one place with a lot of neighborhoods. I said, yeah, absolutely. And I did not know where it was going. She said, my father was in IT and we changed our locations every 2 or 3 years. So I don't have a social life which is like you had in the childhood. My social life is on the phone. Do you want to take it away? So I said, no. She said, yeah, because my social life is here. I said, no, but what about, your work schedules? She said, listen, I'm new to Mumbai. I live as a paying guest because Mumbai is a very costly place. I stay in that place only because I want to spend a night there, but otherwise I don't like staying there. I can't afford anything more. So what I do is that I do my social networking when everybody is available during the day, my family and things like that. And I start working late and I go late, and Mumbai is safe. So actually I spend minimum time there. There's no chance of me ever missing a deadline. Now to my mind, it was a completely different perspective. And more than she learning, I learned that this framework always need not help, or it need not be true. And if you're open, and what she said is absolutely true. If you're open and if you're respectful, and if you can suspend your judgment, all of us have a I mean, I'll be lying through my teeth if I said I'm not judgmental when I hear something.
I was just going to say, Yogesh, this is easier said than done.
Yeah, it is always.
You can learn to you need to be aware, and that awareness helps you to suspend your judgment till you give other person a chance. And you always end up learning phenomenally. What is most exciting about my job is that I get to meet people, I get to hear people, I learn a lot, and I get paid for that also. So, I mean, what more can you ask?
Good one. But since you're saying this, I want to, dig in here a little bit more. It's from a leader's perspective. हम कहते हैं कि हाँ, we are open, etc. पर वो openness लाना किस हद तक आसान है और how, because you said this story was an interesting story, okay, but let's think of it objectively. You are you, and therefore there was that openness when she asked you those questions. Sometimes you may not be able to create that comfortable environment even if you want to. तब आप क्या करते हो? How do you...
Behavior of a leader is extremely important. How do you react to when people talk? Decides whether they will be open with you or not. It's just a raise of your eyebrow or a change of your tone can give a very different message that, okay, fine, this is my limit, I can't go further. All my life, what I've done is, and it has worked for me, and it is accidental. First time is a funny story. First time I became a head HR of a company was when I was 25. Okay.
Wow.
This was in 1990. No, and this has got nothing to do with my brilliance. I'm talking about IT industry in 90s, which was not exactly a favored destination for a lot of HR people because the industry itself was small, no unions, so there was no power conventionally. Okay. Service industry was evolving. Forget IT industry. And then we were about 350-400 people company. The CEO couldn't find my boss's replacement. So out of frustration, he asked me, will you lead HR? That's how I became head HR accidentally. Now, when I became a head HR accidentally at 25, a lot of people had seen me joining as a fresher in that same company. Okay, and just 1.5 years back. Okay, so I had to be their friend, philosopher, and guide in the descending order. The first was very important, and what helped me is that people are not bad. They may have different opinions, but if you are open with them, that happens. So for me, it was not a choice. Sometimes accidental things teach you much better. So for me, it was a survival. I mean, if I had behaved like a HR head who is very experienced, I couldn't. I didn't. I had 1.5 years of experience, right? It was cruelty to make me head of HR in a way, but that taught me. And something that works stays with you.
Yeah.
So what I thought this is my biggest weakness. Because who is going to, accept me as head of HR? Then I realized people are relating much easier with me because they find it very easy to talk to me than those times the conventional HR people. And then I said, that's a hack. I said, it's worked.
Would you make a 25-year-old a head of something today?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
I will, because my boss made me. So, in my career, I have always given chances to the younger people for the jobs which were earlier done by much senior people. And it has worked because, see, what perhaps they lack by experience, they cover it by enthusiasm.
Nice.
And sometimes in my own mind, why should somebody make me head HR? So that was like a lifetime opportunity for me. So I grabbed it with both hands, and I actually did a few things which perhaps the conventional HR person had not done. And you're enthusiastic, right? You look at it as a lifetime opportunity. So my philosophy of leadership development is that draw a line and give the role to the youngest possible person, and that person may lack experience, exposure, but she or he can make it the gap by enthusiasm.
ये interesting point
एक तो जुनून रहता है ना, and then they value it also. And once you have that trust, so both of us, and I can speak on his behalf also, is we operate from the premise of trust. So once I trust you, and I give a XYZ thing to you, it's the line then, then more, and all the time, and with no exceptions, we have seen that people respond to trust a lot. So it's the bond you automatically build, and they will always value that trust that you've shown in them.
मुझे ये बताइए, because you're also an image coach, etc. How do you spot a leader? जब हम बात कर रहे हैं कि आप 25 साल के या 27 साल के किसी को कल लीडर बना सकते हो, how do you spot a good leader?
Yeah, so 2-3 things that are my benchmarking. One is the person has to be, as I said, he or she must have that junoon of doing things. Second is the one principle that I really look out for people is that there should not be any pettiness. It's that one thing, it's on petty issues. If you're going to haggle around, when are you going to have the time to grow? When are you going to be magnanimous to get, leadership is all about getting all sorts of people together and working towards an organization. Should not be afraid of making mistakes. Okay, I make mistake, I fail, but I own up. and I say, hey, you know what, I made this mistake, but next time I'll be careful. So these are 2-3 pointers that really, and that passion has to be seen through. And if you're passionate enough, you are, it's not a matter of age at all.
Oh, wonderful.
Fire in the belly. One, fire in the belly. And she said it all. When she talked about passion, I completely agree with what she said. And yes, absolutely. I think the pettiness is the biggest hurdle in the leadership. If you can't let go minor skirmishes, if you can't let go minor things, you are burning a lot of your energy.
Micromanagement.
Call it micromanagement, sometimes I've seen people not letting go the small incidents which have happened. You need to let go because they block your energy, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not.
When the both of y'all were, together working in building an organization, especially during the coaching journey.
Oh,
right? I want to talk about leadership. Let's talk about conflicts when two leaders come together.
So let me simplify that. First and foremost is that we did not build business. Okay, we were a 2-people company and we intended to remain a 2-people company.
Okay.
The reason is that we wanted to just focus on our own individual works. Both of us have completely different working style.
Yes.
Okay. And she is far more organized and disciplined. I fancy myself as an artist. So both of us have very different ways of working. We just used a common billing umbrella, if I may use that.
Okay.
And our work was independent. That's it. So, I would be making it a very pompous thing if we built an organization together or something like that. We both came together. In life we have enjoyed each other's company. So we enjoyed working together. And our working styles are different, and that has never bothered.
First time we actually worked on one program together. That after that was after years of marriage. I have known him since I was 18. So but we've never professionally worked together.
Right.
So, that was the first program we worked. And I realized, my God, who is this person? He's totally different in his work.
Right.
It took me about a month or two to adjust that, okay, our styles are completely different. While the passion remains the same, the styles are different. And so, we had to blend with each other's styles. Acha, when we are working together, we need to, these are the 2-3 things that you need to be aware about how I do it, and vice versa. When we are working separately, okay, it's our own way. So that was...
It was very easy actually.
The point that I was wanting to get at was when two very strong leadership qualities come together, especially because in today's dynamics, there's a lot of co-founders in startups, etc. And how do you come together, with the conflict, with the ego, and with the two strong leadership styles? Is there a hack?
No, the hack is very simple. Okay, so let me take a step back. And it may sound very odd, but both of us are not ambitious at all. Okay, we did our career. It was very clear. The relationship came first in life, and then we started our career. So what is primary has never been any doubt.
Yeah.
So if a career comes in the way of the relationship, we wouldn't hesitate a moment to chuck the career. After doing my graduation in chemistry, 1 year sitting at home thinking of doing civil services, studying history, and then I met her. I was 21, she was 18. Then my dad put some sense in my head saying that, Baba, kuch career karo. And then I said, UPSC war kuch bharosa nahi hai. So later, somebody, 91, somebody told me that if you do a MBA from good college in Mumbai, you'll get 6,000 job. And so I said, 6,000 is fantastic. It's good to spend life with her. And that was the ambition with which a career started. Now, when your career starts with that kind of an ambition, then everything else what has happened is a bonus, first and foremost.
How interesting.
So there was never, ever any... I don't even see what's the problem. In a sense, because both of us enjoyed being together. We have been friends since 1991.
Yeah.
So this is like 35th year of our relationship. And that's the primary thing.
Yeah.
Career is secondary. Now, me saying it, sometimes people can find it little odd, but that's true. And once I had this dialogue with somebody tried to, this was in 2001, when I was asked to shift to Bangalore. So somebody tried to convince me saying that, this is a great opportunity for you. Sometimes a career takes over the family. And I said, wait. You don't have to sell this position to me because I'm an HR person. So second is that there's never a confusion what is more important than family and career. And I've said that in the boardroom. I said, because tomorrow if there's a question of changing career or family, I have no doubt what I'll change. I'll change a career, I'll never change my family. So why are we even debating? So this clarity, both of us are very, very clear.
Nice.
Career is something to make your life better and meaningful.
How nice.
That's it. That is the purpose of career.
Hmm.
And as long as you enjoy doing, do it. The moment you don't enjoy, don't do it. Don't think of consequences and decide, लेकिन फिर मैं क्या करूँ? To leave what you're saying. I remember a very simple incident. Once it happened long back. I think it's 22 years back. I was generally talking to my dad and said, मजा नहीं आ रहा है. And we said, I'm not enjoying or something like that. He says, are they paying you what they said in the letter? I said, of course they are. Are they giving you the same title and job what they have promised to in the letter? I said, of course they are. I said, then don't do this as a leader. Then if you have guts, step out of the company and say मजा नहीं आ रहा था. You don't have a right to work even for a day in that place as a leader. You should quit.
But this is an interesting one. Okay, here I want to bring some perspective. Not everyone may have the privilege to say कि मैं quit करके I'll figure it out.
It's not a privilege, it's a choice that you
It's a
have.
choice.
And obviously this is not, if you, that's why I said in the beginning, logic has never been our strength. You know, when I left my CHRO role, I had phenomenal wealth creation plan and stock options and stuff like that. And I just left it. And people were short of throwing stones at me. They said, are you going?
You are a young
gone?
family.
You have a young family. I said, yeah, but big debate with me when I left my job to start the company with her. Saying that, I said, there's no risk. So I said, okay, chalo, let's leave the philosophy. The pay slip has stopped. That's the risk.
Yeah.
I said, okay, but I know that I don't have a salary. So I work for it every day. But whereas in your case, if your boss tells you tomorrow, don't come day after, do you know what will you do? So I said, no. I said, then who is at bigger risk? He said, you are scaring me off. It's I mean, so risk is the way you look at it.
Yeah.
Nice.
The privilege, what you said, everybody is privileged. Is the fear that stops you.
Okay, interesting.
And risk is always how you think. Risk is always how you think. There's nothing called risk out there. And if you're clean in your heart, you are not hurting somebody. You're doing what you want to do. How does it matter? See, one of my clients, no. So I used to be a coach and I used to observe their business review meetings and everything. So one day the CEO said, this becomes very heavy. The business reviews are never very easy because they're very aggressive. So they talk something about the leadership in the last 5 minutes. I said, I felt it very odd. Oh, how do you talk about leadership in the last 5 minutes? It was like, no. I said, okay, he has been a very old friend, so I had to humor him. So I just put 2 slides, and thankfully the audience was, the late 30s, 40s kind of an audience. So the first picture was, I said, leadership, I'll explain you in 2 slides and 2 lines. That's it. And to my mind, if you understand that, you'll understand leadership. The first slide was Gabbar Singh of Sholay.
Yeah.
The iconic dialogue was, Dar gaya samjho mar gaya. Now, if you are scared, you're dead.
Yeah.
The second I put Rajesh Khanna from Amar Prem. Which says, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना.
क्या बात?
If you to understand these 2 themes in tandem,
Yeah.
डर गया समझो मर गया, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे.
क्या बात है? Amazing.
Every time we have been criticized whenever we have done what people thought we were mad. And later on people said, "Arey, we always knew you will do something." So this is life.
Yeah.
That's right.
So when you fail or when you are downtime, don't expect for people to come and cheer you up. They are going to give you advice. They are going to give you gyan saying that you shouldn't have done this and that kind of stuff. Stay through.
Stay through.
When you come up, the same people will come and say that we always knew that you will be successful. Be intellectual is leadership. Leadership is very simple. Leadership is be vulnerable, follow your heart, and be honest. That's it. You don't need anything else to be a leader.
क्या बात है? You want to add to that?
So this is, as just adding on to him, is one of the workshops that I was doing, and there was this. She's always been my inspirational example wherever I have done. She came from a very small village, and she wanted to study further. And just at 15, she would have got married off. She ran away, and that she said, all through my life, I have just used 2 words, and that is "ho jayega." And life has given me umpteen challenges, but every time in each challenge I have just said "ho jayega." So that "ho jayega" are the words we keep using, saying that acha, no matter what, ho jayega. And things keep happening, because you
Optimism.
then train your mind to think in that, you exercise optimism. And I think that's what has helped us all through.
Wonderful. You brought about the concept of feedback, and I want to ask you this. When you're looking at giving feedback to someone, there are simple ways, there are easy ways, and there are difficult conversations that you have with people giving them feedback. Tell us about giving feedback and what's the best way to give feedback.
To my mind, feedback, the concept that I like, it is a very famous concept, is feedback is like a gift you give to someone you love. Now, if you are gifting someone whom you love, like your spouse, girlfriend, parent, child, whatever it is, you will think through about what they would like. You would also think through about what would add value to them. You will also go a mile extra. So if you go to a shop and realize the things that you had in mind is 10-15% costlier, you will stretch because you are buying it for somebody whom you care for. So give feedback is and then you gift wrap it. I have always wondered why people spend time on gift wrapping it. Because first thing anybody who receives a gift is tears it out. Now why do you wrap it? Wrap it because it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of respect. So to my mind, that planning is the way you think in your mind, and that planning can happen in 30 seconds. Simple questions you have to ask yourself. Why do I want to give a feedback? What is the value that I'm going to add? Please understand, criticism is not feedback. Speaking your mind out is not feedback. Feedback is about what is the value that I'm adding, because it's a gift I'm giving. Correct? So what is the value that I'm adding? And if you think this for a minute before talking and be respectful, your feedback is very easy. It can never go wrong. We also buy gifts for people whom we don't care for. To my mind, casserole is a gift which was bought, which was created not to keep the things warm. It was just
maybe कहने वाली थी. ऐसे भी बहुत सारे जो लाती और पास.
So हमारे शादी में there was a pile of casseroles we got, which we gifted again. Those are also gifts. I'm not talking about those gifts. I'm talking about the gifts to someone whom you care for.
Nice.
Then you think through what is the value that I'm adding. So if you're thinking of giving somebody a feedback, the other thing about feedback is be specific. Feedback has to have data. A feedback without data is opinion.
Nice.
An opinion doesn't matter. Anybody. It may be anybody. If you give me with the data.
When you move in leadership positions, we do have a knack of sharing things that ye hona chahiye, wo hona chahiye, wo hona chahiye. But it's equally important to understand from our peers, our juniors, our the pulse on the ground ki ho kya raha hai, and someone who may have been at a junior level still does his or her work with a lot of expertise, which means that person is giving you a feedback from his or her own experience and expertise. And it's important to take that feedback as a leader especially when you move up the hierarchical order. That helps you also to understand what is happening on ground and to take up, of course you filter it, but you take it up and see what works best for the organization. So I think taking a feedback magnanimously also is equally important.
Very well said, because how you take feedback depends on whether people will give you feedback.
Give you a feedback in the first place.
Nice. I was doing an appraisal with one of my recruitment managers, and it was a confirmation appraisal. So every appraisal I also ask her, now your feedback time. So he said, you should not encourage loose talks. And I was like shocked, because my self-image was never to encourage loose talks. I said, can you help me understand how do I do that? I was hurt. Right. My real feeling was I was hurt somebody saying that you should not encourage loose talks, because that was never my image. So sometimes what hurts you is not your image, but that is the time to explore. So I said, can you just help me to understand? He said, no, because if you are in a group and people are talking loose, you don't say anything. So that sometimes people may assume that if you have a tacit approval. I had never thought it that way. My thinking was I don't want to participate in the gossips, right? But the way he said that, it was a completely different perspective that I got. Now, if I had not asked the right question, and I was very hurt. If I had not asked the right question, I wouldn't have got the right answer. And that one feedback taught me for life as to how my behavior is being perceived. Because he's giving me a gift. If nobody has said me so bluntly, and I've asked for it, then you better take it. A lot of time leaders take feedback very personally.
Correct.
They don't say it, but in their mind is how dare you.
I was going to probe on that, because when you said that I was hurt, there are so many times that there are situations in front of entrepreneurs, leaders, or just people working in general that can really prick you.
Oh, they do.
They do.
The simple trick and a hack is that something that hurts you, explore it without reacting. it's a good sign that something is hurting you. Matlab, it's going. You have not thought about it. Like I never in my imagination had thought that I'm gonna encourage loose talks, for example. Okay, tell me more, and then I get a data point. So what hurts you has a hidden gem in that. So if you just bear that pain and just take a step back and ask a person to help you understand, you will actually get phenomenal benefits and inputs for you in life. I'm a very short-tempered person, so reacting comes very naturally to me.
Right.
So I think I must have said sorry 7-8 times. I apologize, and the word was I apologize. Sorry has lost its sting. I apologize. Yeah. And when I did it 7-8 times, it started tempering me down. It started when we talked some time back about suspending that judgment. That started happening because I hated saying that I apologize. And then that slowly tempered me down. With her, she has a lot of empathy. She can listen. She can. I mean, if you ask the leadership styles, I think she's a far better leader naturally than I can ever be. Because, for example, if somebody comes late, her first reaction is, everything is okay. What has happened? I hope everything is. And my first reaction would be, "Bugger, why are you late?" And that's my natural reaction. Now my adopted reaction is different because I've learned over a period of time it doesn't help to react, and somebody may have a different. She thinks it naturally, which is my adopted behavior. But you can adopt these behaviors.
Can leadership qualities be learned?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
of course.
yes.
They can be learned.
So let's say simple things, no? That if you are in the habit of reacting, always carry that 200 ml of bottle with you. Drink, gulp it down entirely, and then respond. It gives you those 10 seconds to take a pause before you respond. The other thing is, as he said, you have to be open to taking a feedback as well. That's when, and it starts with leadership. Fortunately, unfortunately, it is always top down.
Here I want to bring something into context. When we say, something pricks you, what it pricks is the ego.
Yeah.
Of course. And all of us are massive.
All of us are massive. And there is no, of course, there will be, age and positionally or hierarchically where you are. But it works both ways.
Yes.
Yeah. You can prick the ego either way.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with doing that much more cohesively? Or
In a sense, dealing with people who have egos, or
dealing with people, pricking that.
Calling people egoistic is making them villains.
Yeah.
There are no villains in our story. People are who they are. And I'll tell you a very simple law. So, you are a Bollywood buff. I am a Bollywood buff. Bachchan Saab, in one of his movies, gave a hack for this. Okay, I don't know whether you have seen this Aakhri Rasta movie.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's an older Bachchan talking to the younger Bachchan. He draws a number 6 on his hand and says that, जहाँ से तुम देख रहे हो अब ये 9 है, मैं 6 देख रहा हूँ, दोनों अपनी जगह बराबर है. If you keep that perspective in the mind, you're okay. And people with ego are the people who perhaps will be a little temperamental, nothing else. That does not make them bad. They may be passionate people. They may be people in the hurry. They are not bad people.
Yeah.
So what is your objective? Now, if I'm telling my boss something because something needs to be given to him as a data, then it's a very different objective I have than proving that I am smarter. If you are going to your boss saying that I have to prove how I am smarter than you, then it is going to prick. If you go and write this on, you are going to get hit, and that's natural.
Correct.
So your own objective while giving feedback is extremely important, and that's why those two questions. What am I giving this feedback for, and what is the value this feedback is going to add? If you can't answer this question, don't give feedback. Don't give feedback. Don't bother.
And then you also need to go to the side of 9 to see how a 9 looks. Otherwise, we can argue till cows come home. मेरे जगह मैं सही हूँ, आपकी जगह आप सही हो. But you go over and see how a 9 looks.
Which brings me to the conflict management bit. जब conflict होता है, और जाहिर सी बात है होगा, workplace scenario में होगा, घर पर होगा, जब conflict होता है, if there's a framework or what is the way to manage?
I'll recommend a book, and it's ultimate.
That's the ultimate.
Crucial Conversations.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think everybody should read that book.
Yes.
It's an outstanding book. And why that is an outstanding book? Because those behavioral scientists, the authors, have shadowed people in their offices and they've followed the conversation. What they say is that when stakes are high, emotions are high, and opinions are different, a conversation becomes a crucial conversation. And in 90% of the cases, people mess it up.
Yes.
what are those 10% people doing rightly? They have culled it out in 6 beautiful principles. So thankfully, there's a good framework available on that, and I think crucial conversation should be made as a compulsory
induction.
book for every leadership kind of a course kind of. It's
Yes,
outstanding.
it's a beautiful book. And between the two of us, we kind of most of the times agree to disagree. We have our different opinions and views and, you know, way to look at things. And then there's a standard rule in the house that if one of us can be angry, the other one has to listen.
Nice. That's an important rule. Well,
So once you have vented out, then okay, now let's converse kind of.
Our relationship works much better like a Mahabharata story. So there's a story in Mahabharata which is Drona asked Yudhishthir and Duryodhana that Yudhishthir said, go and bring me 5 bad people, and Duryodhana said, go and bring me 5 good people. Both of them came empty-handedly. The Duryodhana said that I could see something bad in everybody.
Yeah.
I could find some fault in everybody. And Yudhishthir said that I could find something good in everybody. Both of us behave like that. I can find fault with anybody, and she can find good in anybody. So, when we get together, it's pretty much balances it out.
Very interesting. What if it goes south? When conflicts go south, how do you bring it back?
You have lost the purpose of relationship. Then only it can go south.
Yeah.
Kya baat hai?
Simple as that. You always have to remind in that crucial conversation. There are some beautiful questions. What do I really want to achieve is a North Star in this conversation. What does this relationship mean to me? And what do I not want to happen? And what do I want to happen? These are very simple questions which ground you basically. So you need to be and if you really want to understand this in a very simple way, there are 2 scenes in this famous movie 3 Idiots, and watch those scenes.
Oh yes.
Same topic, same stakes, how a bad conversation can happen and how a good conversation can happen. So there is a scene when 3 of them go to Farhan's house, and Farhan's father is trying to explain them what are the sacrifices I have done to make him an engineer, and Amir Khan just rubs him off the wrong way, the father, and he throws him out of the house.
Correct.
Both of them are wanting Farhan to do a good career, father as well as friend. But that conversation goes wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
So the purpose is the same, but the conversation goes completely wrong.
Yep.
Then Farhan explaining his father why he does not want to become an engineer in the end scene, and why he wants to become a photographer and all. That conversation. If somebody does not have a patience to read the full book, see these 2 scenes,
Nice.
he'll exactly understand
Absolutely.
what I mean. So the Farhan's purpose is very clear. I want to be a photographer, but with my father's blessing.
Yeah.
So if you have a difference of opinion, not essentially you have to strike down every argument what the other person says. You actually acknowledge
Yeah.
what other person is saying.
How wonderful.
And
is that?
then say that, but this is what I want, this is what you want, and is there a common point? What is a conversation? Conversation is as long as, so in Marathi there's a beautiful shloka which says that, Tute vada samvada to hitakari. What it means is that any conversation that breaks a deadlock is a good one. What is a conversation? As long as conversation goes on, conflict does not arise. The moment conversation stops, conflict starts. So conversation is you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to create more pool of choices which you can choose from, coming from both sides. The moment conversation stops, the conflict starts.
Nice.
And then you are opposing parties. In a conversation, you are collaborating parties.
Very interesting. Very interesting. On that note, what we're going to do is we're going to play a game. It's called Satya or Mithya.
Okay.
Or in other words, true or false.
Yes.
Okay. There are some controversial statements that I will throw at both
Okay.
of you. And
Both have to respond our own responses.
yeah, so I'll go one by one.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go with you first. Coaching is only effective when the coachee is willing to be vulnerable.
Yes, in a way. Yes,
So,
yes.
Founders and leaders often become lonely. This is for both of you, actually. Founders and leaders often become lonely and they don't talk about it enough. Is leadership often equals loneliness?
Mithya. I mean, they have a choice.
And then,
And I've seen both.
Okay.
I've seen both.
Okay. Mithya, for you?
so what happens is, because those are the times when you go out and have your own ecosystem. That's
Yeah.
what I think both of us believe in.
Okay. This is for you. Remote work has made authentic leadership more difficult to practice.
Satya.
Yes. Okay. The most important work conversations happen outside formal meetings.
Satya.
Totally, Satya. Totally.
Where do they happen?
They can happen anywhere. They can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
Because in a formal conversation, people take the formal conversations like a review. So I'm putting my best behavior forward, and I'm not
Yes.
vulnerable sometimes in a formal
Yes.
conversation. When I'm talking to person, so I have a very favorite saying which says that when people talk to people, magic happens.
Yes.
Instead of roles talking to roles.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, this is again for both of you. You can't truly lead others unless you failed publicly at least once.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay, so with me again, I have failed publicly, so I
We
know
both can do PhD on failures, but neither have we achieved so much that we can talk about it faster. But I have seen a lot of people who have not
who have not
publicly.
failed publicly, and yet they're successful.
Yeah.
Women leaders are judged way more harshly for ambition than men are.
See, I beg to differ on this. While I do a lot of women empowerment and all these programs, I have been fortunate to work in an all-women organization, have been fortunate to have women bosses. And while we disregard men to a certain extent, men have also played a lot of role in acknowledging the work that women have done. So I really feel the corporate world is
Resilience is just another name for emotional suppression in the corporate world.
Nitya,
no.
resilience is the other way around. In
Resilience.
fact, I do a course on resilience. Resilience is 2-3 things. One is that you have a long-term and multidimensional vision. That's the first necessity of resilience. Second is optimism. The third is discipline.
Yes.
Third is discipline.
Yes.
It doesn't fit well, I know, in all this. But what happens is that when you have discipline, you do not waste a lot of time. You do what? I'll tell you my definition of discipline. It's not about schedules and stuff like that. It's about understanding your priorities and sticking to your priorities. That is, to my mind, is discipline. So if you have these three, you are resilient.
Nice.
I read this book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Right.
That's a classic.
Yeah,
That's
of,
resilience.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
resilience?
so true. That is so true.
So-
Tell me about humor in the workplace.
Oh.
I always have this feeling that apart from performance, one day I lose my job on my sense of humor. Humor is the
That's
oxygen.
that's what
Oxygen,
helps
yeah.
you sustain life, really. You must have that humor born in you, otherwise it's such a boring thing to have.
The other thing is that,
But जब leaders
and the humor always has to be self-deprecating.
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 Yeah.
Never
on others.
Any joke on others is not a joke.
Fabulous.
It's a-
yeah, that's so
It's an insult.
Yeah, it's an
that's
insult.
such a fabulous.
So in your story, you should be the one who is an idiot.
Yeah.
Always.
And you should always allow people to have poke
People
you.
should laugh
And
at you.
people should have fun at your expense.
Yeah.
One is it builds wonderful connections and
Absolutely.
relationships, and it's that connect that helps people to feel that you're approachable. You can just go and
What we're now going to do is quick fire. So in short, there's just one statement or a sentiment that I will make, and I just want a quick response. Don't think out.
Don't
too
explain.
much. No, I don't want you to think too much.
Understood,
I want you to be spontaneous. A belief you unlearned about leadership.
No, I mean, not unlearned, but I always had a counter argument is that leadership is power. Leadership is responsibility.
What is power?
Power is a directive. Power, in my word, is a very...
Negative word?
I'm using it in a... Power need not be negative, but it's a negative connotation. I'm using it right now here. Leadership is more accountability than power.
Nice.
okay.
Nice. A workplace value that should be practiced at home.
Respect.
A childhood memory that shaped your approach to people.
I'll go.
Yeah.
My father was a senior government official, and we were in a Dashera day on one of his colleagues' place. I knew my father was a super boss because he was a senior government official, and this fellow was elderly than my father. In Maharashtra, we give a kind of some leaf as a symbol of sona, gold, on Dashera day, and you give it to elders and you touch your feet.
Right.
So I did it to that uncle and auntie. I was in 6th and 7th standard. I did it to that uncle and auntie, and I touched their feet. My father also did that, and my father was their super boss actually. Okay, so and nobody felt odd about it. That couple and my father were perfectly at peace with what my father did.
Right.
When I came out, I had this question mark on my face. So my father looked at me and he said, "What happened?" He said, "No, you are his boss." Now I said, "So, now why did you touch his feet?" I said, "But he said, okay." Now, how do you explain a 7th standard or 6th, 7th standard boy? So,
Right.
what he told me always remained with me. He said, look, you go to school, teacher is elderly, so you know whom to listen to. Now, when we go to office, all of us are elders, all of us are adults. So, there can be a confusion as to who should listen to whom. So, what they have done is that they have given some of us titles. They used to call posts in those days. So, that post is given to me to get the work done from these people. And that is only limited to that workspace. When I come out of that workspace, he's my elder. And I've seen my father touching feet to his junior.
You just explained power dynamics.
And that's about it. Now, when you see this live,
Yeah.
when you are in that formative age, you should be an idiot to forget this. And what he told me is that your title or the role that you hold is not your identity. That is given to you to execute some tasks.
Right.
Leave it there.
Yeah.
And that, if you ask me, that one thought has helped me tremendously throughout my life. Your role or your title is never your identity.
What's one professional risk you wish you would have taken earlier? I know you would say I have.
No, I have done whatever I wanted to do.
मेरा तो हो गया, मैं तो आगे
So at 55, my definition of success is I have no regrets when I look back.
True. I would have probably gone scuba diving. That's it.
I would. अभी जा सकते हो,
अभी जा
ऐसी कोई
सकते
बात नहीं।
हो that's on my to-do list, you know.
अब तो मास्टर कोच बन सकते हो, स्कूबा डाइविंग कोच बन
Exactly.
सकते हो।
Correct.
मतलब मैं इमेज कोच तो हुई, स्कूबा भी सिखा। But what does success mean to y'all or achievement mean to y'all now as opposed to, let's say, 10 years before today?
What it always meant was no regrets. That's success for me.
Being happy, yeah. That's it.
How beautiful is that? And with that, thank you both so much for such wonderful perspectives and realistic ones with no gyan and fluff and all the Bollywood masala that you gave.
Yeah.
And here's to more stories, more conversations.
Lovely talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
hosting.
much, Yashika.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for tuning in to In It Together by Voice of Achievers. We keep sharing conversations, camaraderie in the workplace. So don't forget to click on that bell icon and stay tuned. Follow us for more such content across our social media channels. Stay sane and stay curious.